I think what's also unique to our cases of being entrepreneurs and having some side projects is that, yes, it could lead to a bunch of things, right? Money, introductions, ideas, but really what it allows you to do is it allows you to show yourself again that you can do what you say you're going to do,
Yeah.
which is very rare in this world. Back to the messy middle. We're here. Clearly, we look a little messy. I haven't shaved in a few days. I just got back from Europe. I had my, European vacation actually with Frank, and it was a wonderful trip. But Air France, Teddy, Air France. Of course, Frank is not on because he's also in the middle of a French train ride.
Messy middle of Europe.
Yeah, exactly. But Air France, our flight on Friday. I was praying that we were not going to make the flight because I'm like, I want to stay in Paris a few more days. We were flying from Nice, right? Nice to CDG, CDG to New York. And we almost missed the flight. The flight was delayed 40 minutes in Nice, and we only had an hour layover in CDG. So we land in CDG, we get there, they're like, your gate is here, you got to go through immigration, this and that. We end up running, Nastia gets stopped at immigration. At the French immigration, they're like, "Oh, your EU Schengen visa." They tried to scan it, and they're like, "It's not scanning." They're like, "Do you have any problems getting into Europe?" Before, and we're like, "Yeah, we've been in Europe for the last 2 weeks." Like, and we actually even left. We went from, we flew into France, and then we went to the UK, and then we flew from the UK to
definitely
Austria.
left.
There's just something wrong. There's something wrong with their system. So we had 2 minutes once we got out of immigration and security to make the flight, and they're like, "Oh, we're holding the plane for you." And I was like, "Oh, why are they holding the plane?" I'm like, "Why couldn't it be the one time like, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to book you on the flight next week?" So I think why that is an important little anecdote here is because you have to go and face reality and face the messy middle and also take some action. So like I wanted to be, I don't think the word's lazy, but I wanted to delay my reality of coming back to, Florida, knowing that we have to move, and how that kind of fits into what I want to talk about this week. And what we could talk about this week is some personal updates, but also like what's holding us back from taking the next step on things, and how do we apply certain, I wouldn't say frameworks, but how do we just counter the fear, the uncertainty, the worrying, and also it's not laziness. It's not laziness, but it's the notion to just push things off and procrastinate.
Yeah, you kind of know that there will be like going back to normal, and you sort of want to do little delay for 1-2 days. It's not a bad thing. It's fine. But when there's like a connected flight, you don't get to. I mean, they will wait for you anyways, right? It's not
Not always. Not
Not
always.
always. Never happened to me.
Yeah, because this was a connecting flight. I mean, you've had connecting flights wait for you?
Yeah, like there was one me flying from Europe to I think it was from Paris to Memphis, and it was through Chicago or something. I'm not sure, but like they were waiting for me. When I landed, went through, because flying from Europe and not being a US person, it's more like strict and thorough, and I went through security and everything. So that took a lot of time, and then they were waiting for me, and they were actually calling my name on like the speakers.
Yeah, no, they do that.
Stuff. I was like,
they definitely do that. It's just I didn't think they were going to wait for us because they have a plane of 300 people.
You were hoping.
We were hoping.
Yeah.
But also we were supposed to be like very late, and if the immigration line was longer and the security line was longer, we wouldn't have made it at all. And no, I've never actually missed a flight, like from connecting flights. The only time I ever missed something was when it was super delayed, or they canceled it. So like, actually, there was one time I missed a flight during Gamma. I remember this now.
What was the reason for it?
We were in Singapore, and we missed the day. we went to the airport the day after we were supposed to leave.
Shit.
Um, yeah, we went the day after. So, and so we just said, you know what, screw it. Let's just spend an extra few days, which made sense.
Getting some like notifications, emails, like the flight is today and all that stuff. Like, how can you miss the flight for like a whole day?
I don't know. It was one of those things where you just don't think about it. I think because we were flying to either Thailand or to Russia, and whatever airline we were on, they didn't have our right emails. It was, I can't remember entirely, but we got there. Yes, it was a midnight flight. That's right. It was a midnight
okay,
flight.
so that makes sense. Yeah.
So I thought it was. I was like, no, we don't have to get there. But it was a midnight flight the day before. So you have to. It was not a good.
That's always tricky because when you look at the time, it says the other day. So like I don't know, today's what is today? 7th, and you would think it's like it says 8, so you would mentally prepare for tomorrow, but it's like this night.
Exactly what it was.
That's tricky. That's tricky.
The funny thing, the other time was also my co-founder Sam from Gamma. We were flying to London, and I think we raised at this point 100, maybe 200,000 in our round, and he left his passport at home, and he had his wife at the time put it in the Uber, and he made the flight by 4 minutes, and I was like, if you don't make this flight, I'm like, we have meetings tomorrow afternoon in London to go raise money. But it was always, I know we are absolutely not talking about the topic that we said we'd talk about, but isn't there some like those fun stories of the early days of starting things and like going with co-founders and
absolutely
random shit happening?
We did like a tour back in like 2012 November, I think it was, when we won the Samsung challenge with the guys for the mobile app, and then they invited us to the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Samsung invited us, their developer day, and we decided to go by car from Skopje, which is like I don't remember now, but we did like Skopje, Zagreb, something like that. So we did, I think it was 24 hours if you drive straight, but we did 8 hours, I think it was roughly, to Zagreb, to Croatia, and then from Zagreb to Nice in France, and we stayed there, and then we went to Barcelona. I think we did the same thing going back. So
how did you get from Zagreb to Nice? Did you have to take a ferry, or did you?
We were driving. No, you just like go through like Croatia and then Italy, and then through Italy, and then you end up in
parts of Croatia you can't drive through, right? Like Split doesn't go to Zagreb. There's like a
I mean, you can drive anywhere, but it's just like a circle from. I don't remember the map. There's like the Bosnia in the middle here.
Yeah, exactly.
But we went from like Belgrade
to Bosnia, right?
You can drive through now for sure. There are roads, you can do it. But like I think at that time Croatia had much nicer roads, and we just decided to go Belgrade and Zagreb, and then from there to Ljubljana in Slovenia, Italy, like the whole thing to Barcelona. So it's definitely those early days are very fun because like.
Did you drive back too? Or you
it was Alex got his own car, and then we were just like, he wanted to do it because it was also fun for him to drive. And then there was like a storm because this was in March, so we won the challenge in November, and then the Mobile World Congress was around 20 something of March, and we decided to drive, of course. And then there was like a snow, I think, somewhere in Italy between France, something like that, in the Alps. It was crazy, but a lot of fun.
I mean, it's. We always say it's about the journey, but this is quite literally talking about the journey. And
I don't even remember what happened in Barcelona. I remember the trip going there.
It was more fun that way, and it's kind of it's quite similar to the stories of like, we sold the thing, and you remember all the crazy stories leading up to selling the thing. And you're like, well, do you remember the sale? And you're like, I do, and it's important, but it doesn't feel as intense as the whole journey leading up to it. I don't
Absolutely.
know. Maybe that's life in a way. Maybe when we die, I'll pull Frank into this, even though he's not here. Maybe
with your Franck mask on.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe when we die, that's what you feel, which is like, oh my God, like we were born and then we die, and at the end of the life, you know, we got to where we need to be, and it feels great, but you know that prize, that death prize, it's not worth it. I don't know.
I like when Frank talks about this concept of optimizing for stories, whether
Yes,
it was his or whoever else like said that, but like optimizing for stories when you're much younger, and in the early days of your startup, it's easier to maximize for good stories
yes,
versus when you're like much later stage or you sort of made it already. It's very hard to like be
it's just
flexible
not
and
exciting.
playful.
And it's also not exciting because you've done what, you know, unless your goal is to, you know, be complete world domination. But once you've gotten to world domination, you're, let's say you're NVIDIA, you're Meta, you're Microsoft, um, Apple, right? So
Yeah.
like Google, or it's Alphabet. Like once you get to that level, there's only a few founders that could stick around. Like I find that it's interesting, like Zuckerberg, right? So now what they've been able to do is they're able to hit these plateaus and say, okay, we need to keep going. And I think that's also interesting, but I think, you know, that's why you see so many founders leave and decide they
Mm.
don't want to keep going on it because how much more can you bang your head against the wall? And it also, I think it shows that maybe you know, it's 100% not about the money, but it's about this idea of waking up and either being extremely passionate about it, or if you decide to step back, you're like, I want to find something else to do. And I don't think there's
Mm.
anything wrong with that, right? So, like,
Absolutely no.
and I kind of give Meta as an example for that because everybody always says Meta's doing horrible. They're not going to figure it out. They did the metaverse, renamed themselves Meta, and now look, like they've kind of turned completely around to actually doing well, right? Um,
They're doing pretty
so
well.
yeah, I think they're doing fine.
No, and
So,
Mark is optimizing for stories, obviously, with all those
oh yeah,
pictures
look at
of
like
him, like,
yeah. Now with he's growing his beard
or,
out and he's got the gold
yeah, the
chain and
chains. Yeah, yeah.
I so I guess like the question is if we're optimizing for stories and for unique stories and everything, um, does that always put us in the position as these post-exit founders of actually finding our own things to work on? Like is it are we cursed with this idea that we have to do something that fits in with the ideas that we think are, you know, who we are as a person, which is the entrepreneur, starting our own things? Or does it give us the ability to also kind of moonlight and help on other things that, you know, maybe aren't our own projects?
Mm. I don't think there's anything wrong with like doing whatever makes you like happy at whatever moment. If that's taking another project, fine. But just the urgency to do something, it's one of these characteristics that I keep seeing in a lot of people talk about how having this sense of urgency to fix the world, it's this big characteristic, but it doesn't have to be working on your own project. It can be joining another person mission vision, uh, and I keep seeing this lately, and also thinking for like myself, uh, I just have to do something like all the time, like every day. I have to like either think about these big things or do something, and I know the patience is really important there, but like you have to be in this state of motion, regardless of what it is.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. And I have this thing, and again, we said we're going to talk about the fear, the uncertainty,
Mm.
the concern. So, you know, I just signed this little consulting thing to help company in the valley do some introductions for fundraising. You know, and again, and I'm torn by it because I'm good at it and I can really help them and I'm going to help them. But I'm also like, shit, I have not decided on my next thing yet. And if we look at the time clock, I sold the SPAC last August. So it's been a full year. It'll be a full year, August 18th. And it took like another month for it to close. So let's just say a full year.
Yeah.
And I tried a bunch of things. I haven't figured out what the next thing is yet. But what I will say it's different between this messy middle and the last messy middle is I actually have worked on things that are not my own projects and I've done it in a way it's not a distraction. So it's like this fear that I have that it's going to be a distraction, and then I realize, wait, it's not really a distraction. It's helping me do what I want to work on, and the distraction's more of the time that you have that it's free. Like I don't know. I don't know how some entrepreneurs do it, where they're like, they can fill their schedule up even though they don't have their next thing that they're working on, and then they kind of just start that next thing. Like it's,
I don't know. It's like you've been doing a lot of things for sure. Like this podcast is one thing, the Tactalia stuff, a couple other projects in between, I guess. But like, I feel like you have this expectation of yourself to do something big. I know you have these 5-year plans. You plan like big chunks of projects and work, and it feels like you still want to have something that big, but in the same time you're actually doing these smaller things, and they are part of your journey now. It's been a year, as you said. It's not like you've been sitting. There are projects there. You're just maybe not putting them on like a pedestal because they're not very like big in terms of vision. Our podcast is fine, but it's not like a $1 billion company or anything. We're doing it for fun. So maybe that's
big, but not $1 billion company.
Probably, yeah. But you have this expectation from whatever, your previous experience, your circle around you, people that you hang out with, the post-exit group, a lot of other people that you see, and you tend to want to do those things because you know you can do them, and you've proved that in the past. I think that's just like mostly in your mind, like you are doing things, it's while chasing this other big whatever that is, we don't know, you still have opportunities that you can enjoy the ride on or with.
And do you think, and this is post-founder psychosis, but also therapy, I would always like to say this is a cathartic. Do you think this is normal and we just think, okay, do you think this is normal, and is it the myth of the person that figures out what they want to work on next and it immediately has traction?
I think first, normal is a very why would we look for the normal state of things? Entrepreneurship, by default, you are sort of abnormal in some ways, the way you're like living your life and values and everything. So I don't think in terms of normal versus not normal. It's just another like circumstance that you may be the first one going that way and paving the way for others. It can be that. When I think about taking other projects, working for other people, I used to be very harsh on myself until I read the Shoe Dog, and I know we talked about this, but Phil Knight, he took a lot of jobs in between. Like the company was even...
You worked at PwC until the company was doing like $1 million in sales, $2 million.
Yeah, and
first 7 years, I think.
For a very long time. And if I think about that, for me, I was always like, no, I shouldn't be doing this. This is like forbidden place to be. Just focus on your work. But you see, there are people doing different things. There's no one particular way how you should behave,
I think you're right.
Yeah. So I think we were just like overthinking it. It's very simple. You have a thing that works, why not? Who cares?
Yeah. And if it takes you 1 day a week, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, and worst case, there's a way when that could lead you to something very interesting. You may learn something new, or a connection, or whatever, money that you can put to work elsewhere. There are a lot of things that can happen out of whatever gig side project.
And I think what's also unique to our cases of being entrepreneurs and having some side projects is that, yes, it could lead to a bunch of things, right? Money, introductions, ideas. But really what it allows you to do is it allows you to show yourself again that you can do what you say you're going to do, which is very rare in this world. And it's like this imposter feeling that I remember watching a Jerry Seinfeld documentary, and he said, I don't know how people do it. Mostly he's talking about comedians. When they go off of stage, and they don't do stand up for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months at a time, he's like, they can get back up, and it's like they never got off the stage, and they were perfect. He goes, but for me, I take a week off, 2 weeks off, 2 months off. Every day that I take off, I wonder, can I get back up there and do it again? He's like, I don't know, can I? And he goes, every time it's fine. He goes, but I have this imposter feeling where, how do I do it again? And I will entirely admit that I feel that every single day that I'm not working on something. And of course, I didn't feel that in Saint-Tropez and in Europe on vacation, because I told myself that this is going to be a vacation trip. I'm turning 35. But every day I'm like, shit, I raised $300 million in a SPAC. I can't raise $300,000. I can't raise $5,000. So how am I going to do it again? And then, I'm like, no one's going to want to talk to me. So I'll give you an example. Like last week or the week before, when we were in Saint-Tropez hanging out, and I'm talking too much, Teddy. I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
I got a phone call from Riccardo Zacconi. Riccardo Zacconi's founder of King Candy Crush, sold it for $5 billion to Bobby Kotick at Activision. And, he flippantly said on the call, he was like, oh, we're looking at $1 billion game company to buy. Maybe you want to talk about it. No idea if he's serious or not, but he mentioned this in the call. And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, that's somebody who's done something, who's worth, I don't know, a lot of money, a couple $100 million. Built huge company, and he's like, hey, you want to talk about some ideas? And like, I'm on WhatsApp with him, we're texting some ideas and back and forth. Might not lead anywhere, but I have to remind myself that that's my network, right? Like that's who I'm talking to. And it's not like I'm talking to, some random guy down the street. It's somebody. And so what I'm trying to figure out, and maybe what other post-exit founders are, is how do we ensure that we don't drive ourselves crazy to say that we can't do it again.
So you have the fear of not being able to do it again. That's interesting. And this type of thinking that you shared is twofold. It makes you feel like, am I the person that can still do it? But also it's a positive thinking because you are in that circle already. It's not like your opinion is valued, your experience is valued. Like you have to keep reminding yourself of that in order to stay in that positive mindset, because it's easy to just go down the road of like negative thinking and then having imposter syndrome and all that bad stuff that comes with it. Just keep reminding. I don't know, write it somewhere. I think that's like motivational stuff. Whatever.
I'll set an alarm for you to call me to say, hey, Gabriel, just remember, like these I'm your friend. These are
these little things help. Like it's really funny, but it's like just like write some whatever alarms, whatever makes sense for you, and then the other thing is just stay in motion. I think that's really important. I've seen that with like exercising. It's really hard to get back to.
How are you doing with
like
exercising,
proper?
by the way?
I'm trying to like do a couple days a week, not really forcing myself too much, but just staying in shape, basically, having like healthier lifestyle. But sometimes if you like slack for a couple days and you like skip a week for whatever reason, travel, let's say, it's very hard to get back, and you need to like put the same amount of energy that you put a year ago when you started, just because you skipped this 1 week. So like stay in motion, just do like one basic exercise, doesn't have to be a lot. So the same thing applies to business. Like have a call with someone, or just remind yourself, read a book, like whatever motivates you, whatever keeps you busy. Play a game of poker or whatever, like mentally fresh. So yeah, staying in motion, I think is really important.
I agree. I agree. And I also think location is also important. I hate to keep harping on this, but it's tough for me being in Florida because I don't have any friends down here. It's kind of crazy. All my friends are all around the world. Like I could travel to Europe, and every single city I could probably have a friend. So, even in Macedonia. But like,
Yeah.
so, and even in the States, I can travel to a bunch of places and have friends. But like where I am now, it's tough. And I think as an entrepreneur, it works when you're really focused on something. It's really good. But when you're in sort of this messy middle, it's dangerous because you go, well, I'm all alone in it. And even though we're in a virtual world, like
Yeah.
when I was in New York for the last few months with you, we'd hang out, see the fireworks and do all the fun stuff, go get a steak. Like we have real conversations about real shit, and you can't replace that with a phone call. And you can if it's small doses, but if
Yeah. Not entirely for sure, but like you need a little bit of that. It's just to feel hurt and like there are other people out there,
yeah,
it's important.
exactly.
It's important to do that.
Yeah.
But you definitely don't love to be where you are right now. And also, it's true that you've been outside of Florida for most of this, like last couple months.
Oh,
So
past five
yeah, I
months.
think that's actually good. But you see, the moment you go back home, you're going back in that mindset. So you just have to change that environment, like that background and stuff. You just have to redecorate or whatever.
It was a good background.
It's
No,
a
we have,
good background, but it like there are a lot of like I don't know what it is, like energy or like
no. The energy is off. The
yeah,
energy is
yeah.
off. No, it's not just changing the background. It's making a real move and doing it. And I've only been talking about it for the last year and a half.
How long you've been back from like in Europe? From Europe?
4 days.
It's been 4 days. You see, like 4 days passed, and you're back in that like mindset. Oh, I hate it here. I hate Florida. There are a lot of people, and it's like you default to that.
It's bad. It's bad. And being an entrepreneur, and us being able to go to any location we want, you should go to a place that you enjoy. Now, the challenge is like you have to commit to being in New York or commit to being in San Francisco, which we're going to do, right? I'm not saying we're not going to do that, but I guess where the challenge stems from is, no, I'm just making up some bullshit. I just need to do it. So, but no, I got a plumber coming and the painters and we're renting this place out. And it's like what sucks is you end up renting out the Florida place during the best time of year to be in Florida and the worst time to be in New York. So maybe it's San Francisco. I don't know. We'll see. But I, I think Scott Galloway is kind of a joke, like in a sense of a lot of his commentary on stocks. But I think he's 100% accurate that you have to move to the location to where you want to be for a couple of years to be in. And I don't think it's just for a couple of years. I think it's for your most important years. And your 30s are very important.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Yeah, for sure. Time is important, but I think it's more important to immerse yourself in whatever environment you are. You can be in New York and not do anything
Of course.
New Yorkers do, or you can be in like whatever, San Francisco. You have to be part of the happening.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
And I think where it could work if I was in Florida, living in my hometown, Delray Beach, if I became a part of the local community, started going, synagogue, going to get all of the local charity stuff, building my network here, then it's a totally different game. So, and I think in New York, look, like you and I in New York, we go to the PEF dinners, post-exit founder dinners, the lunches. We do the things that we love in the city, and I think the key is making sure you do that where every place you go to. Like Frank's not on this call, but he's in Estonia, and he's really good at immersing himself in the community, even if he lives in some random places. And I can't say Tallinn would be my first choice, but he's got a beautiful, apartment, and he's made a community of friends that show up. He's got an office, so he's there, right?
It's properly Estonian. I don't think I want to immerse in Tallinn's like lifestyle. I could spend a couple days there for sure. It's a nice.
I've never been. Have you been?
Place? Yeah, I've been to like previous place where he used to live, but this was back in, I don't know, 2019 before COVID or right around COVID, something like that.
I have to go at some point. I've only been to his fancy places, so. Okay, we said we keep this one short. You've got a flight to make. Your little vacation. I think we covered a lot here. I've got a quote, if it's cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
The things which hurt, instruct. Benjamin Franklin.
Oh, okay. It's a good one. Cool.
Well, you're reading the Franklin book, aren't you?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I thought I'd get Franklin this week.
I was
Well,
actually searching for quotes from Franklin also before the call, but yeah.
I didn't
Cool.
even, I got it from this book that I just got today, which is called The Tools. 5 tools to help you find courage, creativity, and willpower and inspire you to live life in forward motion.
Who's
I
this
thought
book by?
Phil Stutz and Barry Mitchells. And Phil Stutz is like the celebrity therapist in LA.
Hmm.
Jonah Hill did a documentary on him. And I read an article the other day. I said, you know what? Let me get his book. It was $7 on Amazon. So I'm like, that's better than a hot dog. Well, there'd be like 3 Costco hot dogs, but still better than 3 Costco hot dogs. Um, and I thought it'd be a nice read. Um, so yeah, so they're our sponsor this week, The Tools, Phil Stutz.
Thank you,
So
Tools.
yeah, although we got to get Kindred as a sponsor. Teddy, I'm putting that on you. We need to get Kindred as a sponsor.
Yeah, we'll
So
share more in the next or the episode after that, for
yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Promise
Well,
made.
safe trip, and we'll
Thank
talk
you.
to everybody next week.
Thanks. Bye.